Hello everybody, welcome to Beepanock Farm and welcome to lamb weaning day. But before we actually get on with any weaning, I've just found this, which is a lost ear tag, which is rather annoying. So all of our sheep have two ear tags. One kind of explains where it is within our sheep family, and the other one explains what holding it belongs to. And these are useful for lots of reasons. If they go into the abattoir, they have to have them to be identified where they came from and where to come back to. And if they get sold on, they have to have that as well. It's like their unique identification number, if you like, and that is a legal requirement for both of those. They have to have at least one tag in to do either of those things, but ours will always have both. And if they get lost as well, so if they get out onto the road and somebody else catches them, or they end up on somebody else's holding, then they're likely to be able to trace them back, hopefully, and contact us. So I now need to find which lamb is missing its tag. We only tagged them a few weeks ago, but we've already got a loss. There she is. It's this one. Diva. She's pretending it's not her. That's possibly how she did it. She's got it caught in the chicken shed. That is still bleeding, so I'm going to need to just treat that with a little bit of antibiotic and make sure she doesn't get an infection and it doesn't attract the flies, and order a replacement tag for you, I think. And this is the poor little lady that lost her mummy. So you're not having a great time, are you, sweetie? She was trouble as soon as she was born. She escaped out of a pen. Yes, Diva, you are just that, a diva. So we're now over at our other site where these lambs are going to be brought shortly, and we just need to check this area because we haven't grazed it for a little while on this side. So this is actually an old walled garden. It's a perfect environment to have young animals in. They can't get out, people can't get in, and other than it getting quite hot, it's absolutely brilliant grazing in here for them. But where the walls are, there is a little bit of shade for them, and there is a shed behind me as well. So the functionality of this field is just correct, really, for the animals that we're going to be bringing. But the estate that we rent this piece off has had some new gates put in. I need to make sure that they're safe, that they don't open from the other side, because it's a garden centre, and I have a feeling that the garden centre don't want the lambs in the garden centre. I just can't imagine that that'd be great for the general public or for the plants. And we just need to make sure that no rubbish is blown over from the other side as well, and that there's no poisonous plants. So yeah, because we've not had stock in here for a while, we just need to give it a good check over and make sure that it's properly safe. Here they all are, some awfully big lambs, some quite thin ewes, some massive lambs down there in the creep feeder. So it's kind of come to light through my record checking that we've actually got two lambs that are not quite 12 weeks old, and I just think it's a bit too soon to wean them. So we've fished them back out from the rest of the group with their mothers, and we're gonna walk them down to the lamb number 15 and lamb number 16, which is Dexter and Duchess. So they were the last born, and as I say, they're just not quite old enough. Now if they were great big strapping lambs, I'd do it regardless of the age, but they're not, and I don't need to stress them out. So I'm going to bob them down with some of the other girls from last year, where they can just have a couple more weeks on the mothers, and then we'll wean them in a couple of weeks' time. So we've got all of the lambs except for this one. It didn't want to be caught, so it's been grabbed with a crook and bench pressed out of the field. In you go. It's like to say, it's heat. It's like high 20s today. Really didn't want to be chasing sheep around. It's not done them any good. Surely as hell not done us any good. But they're all in there away from their mothers now. Time to take them to the other field. Welcome to your new home, guys. So these guys have actually got quite a lot of space to play in. It's a fair few acre, and they're not huge. It's 15 of them, so we have 20 lambs in total. 3 we deemed too young. They've stayed with their mums. They'll come down in a few weeks time, and 2 I've kept back on the yard because I like to take them to a show, so I need to bath and prep them, and they'll come down here at the same time as the others that weren't ready for weaning just yet. And then in a few weeks time it'll be disruptive all over again, because I'm going to have to split up boys and girls as the boys start to get closer to their sexual maturity. But for now, they can just eat and play. So this is Danny Boy and Diamond, and they're the 2 that I've selected to take showing. Unfortunately, Diamond's pretty wild and she's found this really stressful. She's hyperventilating a bit. I mean, so's he, but he's quite chill about things. He's really humanised, so I'm not even remotely worried about him. I'm going to have to make a real effort to make friends with her over the next few days, try and tame her up a bit. When we're picking which stock we're going to take to shows, we obviously pick by physical traits. So I've tried to pick here my best ewe lamb and my best ram lamb, but it's also really desirable if they're relatively easy for me to handle as well. So with the ram lamb, I'm quite pleased. He's quite tame. He's probably going to get a bit butty, a bit bolshy as he gets older, but I'm not too worried about that just now. Whereas my little ewe lamb, she's struggling a bit, but she's coming around now. I've given her some hay. So yeah, I'm just going to make a big effort to make friends with her, because over the next 2 weeks I'm going to have to halter train both of them and trim them out as well to make them nice to go to the show. We don't normally do this. We don't normally end up weaning and putting the show ones aside at the same time. The reason that this has happened this year is because our lambing was spread over a really long period, so we've ended up with a real like mix of ages in the lambs. It's not really what I'd recommend, because I think it's a little bit of upheaval for everybody at the same time, and it's probably been a bit traumatic to the humans, but it's just the way it's worked out this year, so it's the way it's had to be done. So on and off, it's actually been quite noisy in this area, because this is where the ewes are and they're pretty annoyed about what's happened. So this is what we refer to as drying the ewes off. So basically we want their bags to shrink because they won't be feeding lambs anymore, and then they'll get turned back out and put condition on, so that over the next couple of months they can look something like this should do, because some of them are quite thin. But in order to help their bags to shrink, we need to be really careful about what we feed them. So they won't get any hard feed and they won't get any good quality grass. So they're just in this shed where they'll have access to a bit of straw and a bit of hay, and there's a very, very dry paddock that's been burnt off by the good weather that we've had lately, and that's all that they're going to get. So they'll have enough feed, but they won't have things of high sugary, high feed value that would help them to produce the milk to feed their babies, because they're no longer feeding their babies. And if we don't do that, they can get a condition called mastitis, which is awful, and it can result in losing the ewe, and it can certainly result in not being able to breed from her again, and having to send her in for slaughter or retire her to be a pet. So we want to avoid that at absolute all costs, which is why this process has to be carefully managed, done at the right time and in the right conditions for these animals. Ideally, like I said before, I wouldn't have chosen to do it on such a hot day, but it's Sunday and we're free and we're able to do it, so this is really when it's got to be done. So I think that really concludes the weaning situation for the day. If you'd like to tell us what you've been up to in the amazing heat over this weekend in the UK, be really interested to know, or from wherever else in the world you are, what kind of weather have you had? Has it been 30 degrees? What have you been up to? If you could give this video a like, that would be fantastic, and if you could subscribe to our channel, that would be even more fantastic. Other than that, take care everybody, and we shall see you all again very soon. Bye.